Welcome back. Up next, we have a talk on building AI systems that are both fast-moving and production-ready by Roland Kunz. Yes, please join me in welcoming Roland.
Good afternoon, everybody. So first of all, unfortunately, I don't speak Dutch. I only can offer English or German, so we'll probably stay with English for today. Yeah, and thank you for staying with me. I know it's a long day already. You're packed with presentations, and I will try to be a little bit the bridge between experiments, how do I do POCs, and what is really what enterprise organizations are looking to build at scale in AI. Many years ago, I studied applied physics. I did cellular neural networks, so part of the basic that we now all see as AI. But today I'm in the Dell Technologies technology office. Dell Technologies, that sounds weird. I'm in the Dell Technology office, and I'm looking after AI and AI infrastructure. So also good is that you are all very much younger than I, so that's good. A lot of entertaining people. I will start with 2 or 3 problem determination slides, so bear with me when we come to a little bit more technology afterwards. But we don't do AI because it's there, right? We climb on mountain because it's there, but we do AI for some reasons. And if we look into our customers and into your organizations, we see 3 things that at the moment drive AI. Everybody wants to do it, no matter if it's a success or not. Just throw money at it, build bigger data centers, do AI because we have to. Kind of scary, also sometimes kind of strange. I live near Frankfurt, and they're building one data center after another. There's not even enough power from the city of Frankfurt to fuel all those data centers in need of AI. And I believe it's the same in the Netherlands and almost over Europe. But we all want to participate. We don't want to miss the iPhone moment of AI, right? So we need to be fast, and I think part of what you're doing is fast prototyping, developing, bringing productions. And the talk before, I think, also shows there's a lot of innovation going on. And then especially the big companies, they're thinking, but how can we do it right? What's about security? What's around guardrails? What's around governance? You know, all those things that slow production down but are sometimes really needed. And that's, by the way, it was already true when I did my PhD. Without good data, there's no good result. So we currently see a trend to get better data, train your models better, do your RAG better with the curated data and the data that you can trust. So trusted data is the new thing that is for companies really important. I have a lot of nice colleagues downstairs at our booth where we show a little bit of data lake and how to prepare data. If you're interested, come show up, have a coffee with us, have a chat. I will today go more in the side of production AI. So what can we do to make AI more scalable? And I think this is a good year. 2 years ago, there was the ChatGPT moment. Everybody thought, oh my God. Last year was the year of RAG models, so a lot of companies build RAG. This year is all around agentic AI. And the gap is, if we talk to developers, they say, yeah, did already my agents, they run, they communicate to each other. If we talk to real big customers, say, no, we don't do that. There's so many questions around security, scalability. So there is really a gap at the moment in how to bring that in production and how to get that trust in the organizations to run it. But we are now in an area where we go into the production, and we also see, and I mentioned that already, that the data is the difference. So, problem is, and you probably face it also, there's not a single day where not a new shiny toy comes up, or a new shiny large language model comes on the horizon, or a new developer chain is there, and how to standardize on that. So who are the people we can trust that can help us build that stable chain, the chain of trust? And I think that's difficult in the AI world at the moment. I mean, some people just rely totally on, let's say, Microsoft AI suite. We can do that for sure. Some say we only do something in-house that we have developed ourselves, and there are a lot of other truths out there as well. So now, and that's good, I call that the industrialization of AI. We are in a stage where not only the experiments on the large language models, the breakthroughs, the ChatGPTs, the Groks, they are all still relevant, but also everything around traditional enterprise architectures used to be known as robotic process automation or optimizing my workflows. This really can come together and go into a production state and has to be automated, has to be scalable, absolutely. So we are now here, and we see, especially this year, there's a lot of demand from even smaller customers to bring that all together. That's a busy slide, just to give you you don't have to read it. I don't want to put any questions. This is solely to show where do I start. Those are a number of use cases you could do with artificial intelligence. And by the way, that was the same question that we as Dell had. We identified like 800 use cases. We narrowed that down to 200, and then we started with 8. And that's probably a challenge that every organization has to figure out, where's my sweet spot. So the low-hanging fruits on the one hand, but more important, the one that changed my business, that makes me better than my competition, that reduces my cost, that help my people get faster to results. And those are the important ones. And at the moment, we did 8. We can discuss later offline which ones they are, would just not be in the time that I'm having here for my presentation. But every organization has their own. And you need to narrow down from the use cases that you have in your organization to what you really want to do. Then, and you maybe know that website livearchitect.ai, they tracked for quite a while development of the models, and they more or less gave up this spring, because on the one hand we see models still get bigger and bigger, right? The ChatGPTs, the Claudes, the Groks, they all try to incorporate more and more weights. They train on more of the world data. But I saw some researchers saying we have more or less trained all the data that's available, that's publicly available and even not so publicly available into those models. So the growth is limited. There will still be the hunt for even bigger models, even more powerful, generic AI, whatever models. But the real innovation is happening here. And that's, interestingly enough, ties very good to the talk before, where they also optimized their models, because we want to have those small experts. We want to have optimized models. We don't want to have, the one that knows the world. But we want to have that model that speaks German, the model that understands Dutch, the model that knows how to program Java, or even, I even know what a mainframe is, so on the model that understands mainframe and can maybe automate code or maybe modify code, right? So we want to have that small experts, those really efficient, that we then can bring into some agents or agentic models. And this is where all the innovation currently is happening. And at least to me, it's also way too fast to consult any of my customers on, look, you have to use like IBM Granite, just to name one model, because that's the top model. Tomorrow there will be a better one. And that's also a production challenge we all have. So I compare that a little bit like a car. I'm not sure if that's the best analogy, but those are all engines to cars. And now it's on us to build cars where we can swap the engines, but still do Eindhoven to Amsterdam, on a good speed with good fuel consumption or good energy consumption or whatever. And that's the challenge that currently enterprise customers have. They cannot change every day to a new model. They cannot change all the structures every week, because they have their security procedures, they have their, working behavior. We need to build something flexible. And then there's the other hand, and I already heard that in the questions. There is a high demand for open source. And open source is not only open source models, open weight model, open source, it's also which development stacks, which automation stacks can I use that are open, that I can, understand, that I can trust. And bringing that all together, that's quite an interesting menu to cook. because you have so many degrees of freedom to bring that all together. But there is that need. We want to understand it. We want to trust it. We also want to productize it. That's a stretch. If we go one step back and look what typically people in a company want, and this is a very arbitrary picture. You see the IT guy down there, you see the DevOps engineer in the middle, and you see the data scientists on top. They all care for different things, and typically they don't even talk to each other very much in a big company. So the IT admin takes care about the hardware. Of course, GPUs are cool. We need to get hold of the latest NVIDIAs, maybe AMD, whatever. I need to have now like 144 gigabit of memory for bigger models. You know, this ever-coming demand from the data scientists telling him, can't I get the new stuff? Where's the new Blackwell series? And they all think, oh my God, how to bring that? Then in the middle, the people that all need to automate that, bring an operational environment into production, but also take care of the experiment platform, take care of the libraries to use, maybe starting from CUDA drivers if you're using CUDA in NVIDIA, up to MLOps platforms. And then the data scientists that more or less say, leave me alone, I want to build my vision chatbot, I want to build my nameplate identification, whatever. I really don't want to care on everything below. And some of the workloads absolutely are born and driven in some of the public clouds. With the current political environment, there's more the need to have it European-centric. That's one thing that we're seeing, but we also see it depends heavily on the data and how much intellectual property is in the AI, if it's maybe still on-premise, and it could also be a cost impact where to sit. So in an ideal world, we would develop something that can run everywhere and is still secure and can still be deployed. So makes it even more complex. I can't promise that I can solve it because I think it's always an individual approach, but there are some patterns that we can use to make it easier to transport, easier to use. And we have Dell together with NVIDIA has created what I thought was a bad marketing slide. But if we look a little bit closer into it, it is a good idea. Consider it as a framework. It's not, I go buy it and here I run it. The idea is, why not consider AI the same we would consider building a car in a factory? So when I build a factory, I don't want to tear down the factory every other day because there's a new car coming. Think of BMW as an example. Now I have the 3 series going. There's a new 3 series, a new 5 series. My factory in a perfect world would almost stay the same. I just change some of the robots, can optimize a bit. And that's also what we say is needed for AI. We need to have an AI factory where we deliver some ingredients, and that's the data. And we produce something, and that's the outcome, the use cases. So the factory produces use cases from the data that I have as a company. And in the perfect world, and that's not there, I never have to change my factory. But like, those 80-20, we should try to be able to, whatever my company wants me to do, wherever my data source is, I can, with the same factory, produce a computer vision task, a digital assistant, a code generation, and so on and so on. I don't want to bore you with what Dell does most. Infrastructure, that's not part of the topic today too much, but we do cool servers, cool GPUs, so that was the advertisement. The real important stuff is really the middle. How, as a company, do I decide on an open software ecosystem, but still on a scalable system, and also on patterns that are still there when I, do the next and the next and the next version of the factory. Yeah, I can have people helping me with that, bringing services. Yeah, I should consider how to build a physical platform to be able to scale with my needs, as long as I consider driving that on premise, of course. But the middle, the ecosystem, is really the most important part. And I've chosen 2 examples here. It's very limited, but we only have like 30 minutes, so I don't go in the full picture. but I want to dive a little bit. In German, there is a saying, we call it Wimmelbild. I don't know if that translates to Dutch in any way. It's a very busy picture. You show it to children and they have to figure out where is the cat, where is the dog, and that's a Wimmelbild in German. And this is just for you to get, oh my God, so much on it. You know, someone put a lot of words on that picture just to do confusion. But if we look a little bit in it, a lot of those stacks or a lot of those software environments are common, or you use it or you know it. It's still, how do I combine it, right? In the agentic framework, there's maybe a LangChain you're using. There is NVIDIA Triton as an inferencing server, VLLM being very famous at the moment. Then where do I get my models from? Very, very common is I go to Hugging Face and pull a model. So a lot of companies will typically have some walk through all those layers to define what they typically want to do, and they still have to figure out what is the best for my company. And I say, of course, there's not one solution. That's not possible. But there are things you should consider and we should choose in bringing that whole stack. We as Dell, we are neither doing our own large language model, so we're not developing our own LLMs, nor are we doing the higher stacks of the software. We are totally focused on how to automate, how to serve, how to run all that business. But of course, we have partners and we work together with teams on how to build that stack together. So just take that as an example. That's our point of view on open source. So we say, if you want to go open source, consider those, because that's the one we're also testing, we're using. Dell has its own IT where those are, a lot of that stuff we're also bringing into our production. Totally different picture to that is, can I standardize? Yes, you can. And this is one example of the factory where almost everything comes from the likes of Red Hat and NVIDIA. That's the counter picture to, I have everything open and free, and now I have only 2 or 3 vendors that I can buy and consume. And advantage, I have a lot of support, a lot of people helping me. Disadvantage, I might be tied a little bit in the developments, but both is possible. The stretch, maybe some banks are really happy with that because it's on their standard, it's very secure. Startups typically don't really like it because they want to be more flexible in the options and want to be faster in what's coming down the road. All right, so how do I automate that? We in Dell, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. That's not possible. We just want to use what's there. And we have different approaches to that. Again, we can build that factory with things that we produce and things that we recommend. And we also have some examples in that open ecosystem where we say, look, we believe that's good software that we can help deploy and automate. But they are like, if you're building Lego or something like that, they are like Lego Millennium Falcon. Then you can follow the documentation one by one. And if you're not too stupid, you probably end up with a Millennium Falcon that looks good. Nobody stops you from putting other bricks, other colors, a second cockpit into that. And that's the idea of the AI Factory 2. It's a build plan, like build that Millennium Falcon, but it is not you have to build it that way. It's just an idea, of course, a tested idea, but there are all the deviations that are possible. And I want just to take that open ecosystem example to give it a little peek into that. We can't do a deep dive, but I want to peek in what could be one of the things to be considered there. And I take Hugging Face. Hugging Face, very common. You find millions of models. Most people are not aware that there's a subsection of Hugging Face where we put also models in that we have tested and where we have put some scripts around that and help with easy deployment. And I drill down a bit on that just as an example how we can help to standardize. So if you go on the Hugging Face subsection of Dell, it's dell.huggingface.co. So very easy. You need to register with Hugging Face. Obviously, you get a list of models that Dell IT has tested. So models we are using ourselves, and also models that we help to run business. And why is that? It's only to gain trust, because companies typically trust other companies if they're already using those models. And you find probably more bigger models like IBM Granite or Magistral or even Grok. I take screenshots every other day. This is fairly new, but it's changing, of course. And then we have models that you can just easily deploy. So just bring it in a script and it runs. We have models that can be trained. And the other advantage is also we have already tested it on given platforms. So if you click on that platforms, you will see it runs on, let's take an example, server XYZ with H200 GPUs. Why does it help? It gives you an estimate on the sizing that you need to run it. Because sizing for inference, I mean, that's a story on its own. It's not so easy, especially not if you're doing RAG, if you have concurrent user and this kind of stuff. But this helps you get an indication on what would I need if I want to bring it in production. So just quicker start of a company to get started with those models. And in this, all the ideas are around getting a better, safer, quicker start into some of those. It's not we know everything, go buy it. It's just we help you to understand how to get it running quicker. Yeah, I mean that's more or less basics from Hugging Face. You get the model cards. I'm sure you pretty all know that. But you also get from our model card the Docker and the Kubernetes scripts, so you can integrate it in your Docker or Kubernetes environment, just can run it. You see the parallelism in the GPUs, so it's fairly easy. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it's fairly easy to get started with some off-the-shelf model and continue your work there and even integrate it in the models. The other thing on the Hugging Face Hub, and I have to look at the time, but we're good on time, is we also started an app catalog. The idea is there are stuff out there that a lot of data scientists like to use. Why not bring that in a packaged way in the Hugging Face portal? And I've understand that a lot of people are currently using either Open Web UI or anything LLM, so we bring it there. It's also deployable from there and could be a good environment. Same Cohere, NVIDIA, more to come. And the idea is everything is here, everything that's here, we can automate with a Dell Automation Platform. Dell Automation Platform is a software that helps roll it out, scale it. Again, colleagues down there can tell more about it. It's not my area of expertise, but bringing that together. So now, taking that Cohere platform, bringing as an AI workload blueprint on an automation platform, deploy it on the AI Factory, so an automated way of getting it in a production faster. And that's, let's say, the end in mind, to bring all those things together to help that those ugly, boring IT production guys know how to run the things quicker that you want to run. That's more or less my summary slide, because if we bring that together, if we build that AI factory, we like doing it in a cooking instruction, bring our infrastructure, our management, some MLOps platforms, some frameworks, and say, look, that's a suggestion how to do it. But if your expertise is somewhere else, if it's not in Merlin, if it's not in Trident, if it's VLLM, don't care, we can change it. But we build some point of views where we say, look, those are patterns that we recommend. And at the end, yes, please buy Dell, but that's that's not the topic today. It's really how do we build that stack, what's important for the companies. And in a perfect world, this stack can be automated with the hardware, so we can make it easier to scale up and down. Yeah, I think 5 minutes left. My end slide, it's quite old one, but I like it very much because nowadays it's really no longer important to know everything. It was important when I studied. I was really happy that I know all the formulas. But today it's really more important to put the right prompt, to ask the right question, And interesting enough, this was a citation from the World Economic Forum 10 years ago. So that proved really true. Maybe not in the sense he had in mind when he told that, but I still like it. And if we ask the wrong questions, and that's only some people know that are either old or nerds, then the answer, of course, is 42. And with that, I thank you all. And if there are questions, happy to take some.
Any questions? Yes.
Thanks for the presentation. I also know COBOL.
Very good.
But what would you say the state of enterprise data is for training AI?
That's a sad story, to be honest. No, I know. So enterprises has understood that they have to bring their data in a better shape. And just an example, we in Dell, and just take it because I can talk about it without confidential issues, figured out we stored a lot of information in PowerPoint. PowerPoint is a real bad source to get trained, you know. So we switched to bring it more into text formats, bringing more into databases or SharePoints that some AI can gather easier. So we have, you know, that's a thing we have made. And I have some banks. They are, of course, a little bit more limited because of all the regulatory things. They really have to figure out which data can I put together. So I'd say it depends a little bit also on the business you're in. But I think it's understood that only with the good data there's a good result.
Any more questions?
So, how do you keep up with everything as Dell? Because the it's ever changing and really fast. How do you do that?
That, honestly, I think that's for all of us the question. How do we keep up? In Dell, of course, we use AI. I mean, you use AI to get information about AI. Who else? I mean, that's obvious. And also, we, of course, rely on the research our Chief Technology Office is doing. So we have quite a lot of people bringing together the latest news, contributing, working together. I think it's almost impossible to be on speed everywhere. I just was 3 months on a sabbatical, came back, and what happened? So it's and also, and that's maybe also a problem. The older you get, the harder it gets to get up to speed. But maybe that's only my problem. No, but I think AI can help us also get on speed with AI. But we still need to judge or justify ourselves what is the important thing that I want to digest and what is just I want to have some attention because I want to sell stock markets, because there's also a lot of noise in the market to me, you know, with all the hypes going on.
Any more questions? Yes. Thank you, Roland. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful talk. Yeah, we'll meet back after a 5-minute break, and the next talk will begin by 3:20.